Am I the a-hole for canceling my daughter's horse riding camp application after she canceled her brother's job application? I'll try to summarize this entire conflict that happened over a month/barely 2 months now. I have 2 children, Mia 16 and Ricky 18. Mia used to work at a local coffee shop for 2 months, but didn't commit to nor respect time and had no work ethics. As a result, she got fired, but she didn't accept it and kept begging her former boss to get her job back but couldn't. She was so heartbroken over losing her first job this way. And besides, the coffee shop is or used to be her favorite place. Also, she was saving up to attend a horse riding camp but didn't have enough money, so I promised to pay for enrollment and application. A week after she got fired, she learned that her brother Ricky was trying to get her previous job. She went mad and kept begging me to not let Ricky apply to work at the coffee shop because her friends will find out and say the manager picked her brother over her. I thought that was overdramatic of her. And plus, Ricky is the one to decide which place to apply at, so I told her to leave it alone. Mia refused, saying if I don't do something, then she will. Days later, Ricky told me and his mom that someone logged into his email and canceled his job application at the coffee shop. He said he spoke with the manager and found out someone sent him a rude email pretending to be Ricky, saying he was canceling his job application and he no longer was interested in working at the shop, while adding insults to the coffee shop and the staff and the manager himself, etc., etc. The manager kicked Ricky out and even banned him from the shop completely. I immediately shouted for Mia to come downstairs, and after pressuring her, she admitted sending the rude email to the coffee shop manager to make Ricky lose the job opportunity. She defended herself, saying she felt awful that Ricky was planning to take her place at the shop and couldn't let it happen. I was mad. I told her I'm automatically canceling her horse riding camp application and taking the money paid back. She tried to argue and cried, saying I promised and that I knew how much this meant to her. But I said that was an automatic response to what she did. Point blank, period. No buts or ifs, besides the fact she had to apologize to Ricky. My wife called me an a-hole for not seeing where Mia was coming from and said my love for her was conditional, since I promised to pay for the camp but took the money back as soon as she upset me. Mia hasn't been talking to me for 2 months except for basic words like good night, goodbye, etc. And my wife said Mia has every right to not talk to me ever again if she wanted. I wonder if I went too far or whether Mia deserved her punishment. I won't even get started on how awful Ricky felt, / is feeling because he's developed trust issues ever since. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. She did this to herself. Yep, and given Mom's response, I can see why she feels her behavior was okay. Holy crap, yes. That Mom is a huge problem here. Listen to this, Opie. Ricky wasn't only hurt by his sister. He was and has most likely been hurt by his mother for a very long time. This blatant favoritism didn't happen overnight. He needs to know that he has at least one parent who won't see him as second best to his sister. He needs you to put your foot down and say, enough. I won't let you treat my child this way. It's not right. Not today, home. She did it to herself. Does your wife usually favor your daughter like this, or is it a new development? You guys should have made her go to the coffee house, explain what she did and apologize to them as well as cancel the camp. Does your wife think there should be no consequences? Usually, yes. Does your wife think there should be no consequences? No. My wife thought I should have used regular punishment like taking her phone, having her care for the garden / pets for a week, or clean or wash dishes. But I thought this type of punishment wasn't enough because what she did was not a small mistake. It was permitted. Ricky not only lost a job opportunity, he no longer goes to the coffee shop, which is also his favorite place too. You two need to take a step back and reevaluate Mia's behavior. Poor work ethic, unreliable, lying, vindictive? Ask your wife if this is the person she wants her daughter to be. At 16, she should know better. Obviously, she feels the world should make allowances and excuses for her as much as her mother does. Mia needs to apologize to the coffee shop manager immediately. Perhaps tell her you would reconsider horse camp if she does so, in person, and apologize to her brother. Not today, home. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not continuing to pay for my cousin's college and told my sister not make that choice until she is 25? I'm 25 female and 24 female sister. Lost our parents to a car crash caused by a drunk driver 10 months ago. Our parents left everything to my sister, Taylor, and I with a 50-50 split, with the stipulation we would not have control over my parents' assets until we are 25. Until then, our Aunt Sue, 53 female, and Uncle Rob, 63 male, would have the controlling power of our parents' assets. They are my mom's brother and sister. With me being 25, I have full control of my half of my parents' assets. However, my sister does not. If she wants to spend any money, she has to get approval from Sue and Rob. It took about 8 months for us to get our inheritance and finally have all my parents' assets figured out. My Uncle Rob wanted all of us to go out as a family and celebrate my parents one last time, now that their ashes are spread and all of the legal and paperwork stuff is finished with. We all go to dinner, my mom's whole side of the family, about 20 of us. All throughout dinner, Aunt Sue would make comments about how much money Taylor and I have at such a young age. I asked her multiple times to stop, and she would apologize and change the topic. When dessert finally comes, Aunt Sue asks, "Well, your parents were paying for her 20 male son Alex's college. How should we get that figured out for the fall semester?" Taylor and I knew my parents were paying for his school. We also knew Alex has almost failed out twice. It has only completed 1 full year of classes despite him being in college for 3 years. Taylor and I both knew my parents were going to stop paying for Alex's college since he wasn't taking it seriously, and they gave him multiple warnings. Taylor looks at Sue and says, "Can we please talk about this later? This really isn't the time." Aunt Sue gets mad and said, "You both graduated college and have great jobs, and make enough to support yourself without the money your parents left for you." She said some other stuff, but to summarize, she thinks we need to learn how to be less selfish, and shared our inheritance with the rest of the family, and that we have to pay for Alex's college, since that is what my parents said they would do. At this point, I blew up. I told my aunt that she needs to stop asking about the money. It isn't money our parents gave us. It is the money we inherited because our parents died. I would trade all the money in the world to have just another year with them, let alone the 20+ years they should have had. I told her that she was being a greedy witch and that I would do everything in my power to make sure that she never gets a penny from the inheritance, and that neither Taylor and I would be paying for Alex's college moving forward. I leave the table, pay for the whole dinner, and leave the restaurant. Taylor follows me out and we leave. Neither one of us has reached out to Sue or the rest of our family, and they have not reached out to us. Not stay home. She's trying to manipulate you into giving her and Alex the inheritance. It's clear that money is the only thing important to her. Your feelings, grief, and relationship mean nothing to her. You have no obligation to share any of the inheritance with anybody. Good for you for sticking up for yourself instead of continuously taking her crap. The stupid thing is that by assuming, they've messed things up for themselves. If they'd come to them at an appropriate time and ask respectfully if they'd consider paying their son's college, they might have got a more favorable response. By assuming it was a done deal and forcing the issue in a public family celebration, they've pretty much ensured they'll get nothing ever again. Quite likely an issue of pride that wouldn't let them show any kind of deference or humility to their younger relatives. The way she did it was a ploy. Asking them in public means they might be embarrassed to say no and agree to it. Definitely not stay home, and I would cut them and anyone else out if they mention it. Not stay home. You are totally correct. I tell this to anyone with greedy family. Would they do the same thing for you? You're not your parents. Your parents' money is not your family's money. It's only yours and your sister. Plus, if you pay for this, she would probably ask you to pay for other stuff like food, rent, etc. So she's just leeching off of you. Also, is there a way to stop your mom's family from using this inheritance? They may have just waited for you to get it to try and guilt trip you to buy it. They only have guardianship, so they cannot touch the inheritance. They can only prevent Taylor from touching it until she is 25. But that is only for about 9 more months. And I have let Taylor know if she needs to access her inheritance for any reason, I will give her whatever she needs, so she doesn't have to ask our aunt or uncle. Not stay all at all. Good for you getting an attorney involved too, and I would make sure she cannot take money out herself. Look into having a forensic accountant, if you suspect she's taking money herself also. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not buying my sister gifts to celebrate the birth of my nieces? Short version. My sister had twin girls in July, and because we are no longer in contact, I didn't send anything. She's mad and my parents were upset with me for not sending something for the girls at least. This has become such an issue, she's blasting it to every family member she can. Background. 3 years ago, my sister 29 female and I 31 female lost pregnancies a week apart. She had a miscarriage at 13 weeks and I had one at 19 weeks. She had wanted to be a mom and was trying since the age of 19. But she had suffered a miscarriage at 9 weeks. just a few months before her 13-week loss, and I knew she would want all the time and attention from our parents, so I kept mine private for a week. It was hard, but I knew she would not like me sharing the news sooner. When the time came, my husband told our families. She was furious at me for taking over in her time of need, and how it should have been no big deal for me since I terminated a pregnancy when I was 18. She told me she was the one really suffering, that I had wanted to wait for kids, and threw away a chance at being a mom in very horrible circumstances years ago. So how dare I pile on pain when she needed everyone around her? She told me she hoped I suffered for the rest of my life for what I did to her, and told me to drop dead. In the last 3 years, my husband and I discovered through more losses that we would need treatment for me to carry a healthy pregnancy, so we have been saving in private. We never told anyone about the other losses either. In parts because I didn't want to deal with any mistreatment from my sister. Now it's expected that I will bridge the gap, I guess, or maybe just do everything possible to be an aunt to her daughters. But I'm choosing to stay away and to remain no contact with my sister after everything that happened, and this has just further proven how she will treat me. I hate upsetting my parents though. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She has a track record of making everything about her. How she is the one who really has the right to be the center of attention all the time. You don't keep in touch, so why would she expect that you would send a present? Besides, look at all the attention she is getting by making herself a victim. That is your gift. She gets double the attention. 1 for giving birth and 2 for being a victim and not getting presents from you. I picture her laying on her fainting couch with the back of her hand on her forehead saying, "Why is she so mean to me?" while everyone coos over her misery. Not stay home. Your sister is awful. It wasn't just her time of need. It was yours too, and you had the decency to wait to tell people. You have no obligations towards her or her kids. Why would you send gifts to a woman who hoped you suffered for the rest of your life for having a miscarriage at the same time as her, and who told you to drop dead? You're doing as asked, dropping dead and letting her be an even bigger a-hole today than she was back then. Good luck with your treatments. Exactly. I cannot imagine going through a miscarriage at the same time as my sister, and not seeing it as an opportunity to support each other. Hey, that horrible, overwhelming emotional thing you're going through? Me too. Let's get through this together. OP, your decision to go and remain no contact is completely understandable and sounds like a healthy choice for your mental/emotional health. Good for you for sticking with it. Also, your parents' feelings aren't your responsibility, and you have nothing to feel bad about on that front, especially if they're directing their disappointment at you and not at your sister for behaving so unspeakably horribly in the first place. Not today, home. Life is too dang short to spend time, money, or energy on people who don't bring you peace. Your sister was selfish when she lost her pregnancy 3 years ago, and instead of commiserating with you, she blamed you for your loss, and then said she wanted you to suffer. There's no way in hell I'd ever speak to her again, let alone send her presents for procreating. Your parents can't force you to have a relationship with your sister, and if they try to pressure or guilt you into it, they're going to end up pushing you away. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for my response when my stepbrother insisted to know the name my husband and I picked for our son? My dad married my stepmom when I was 8, so I pretty much grew up with my stepmom and her family. I have 2 stepbrothers, and my older stepbrother is the joking, teasing, busybody type. He's married and has 2 kids, by the way. This whole thing started when he started making fun of my baby name choice before I had my 2 oldest sons. Even though the 2 previous names my husband and I chose were normal, like Jason, Chris, Adam, etc. But my stepbrother would constantly make fun and criticize the name, saying things like, "Poor kid, isn't that the name of a famous adult movie star?" And this was my bully's name, so I'll remember my bully whenever I call my nephew's name. He'd criticized the name so much that I had to change it. He got my step-family on board of making fun of my choices too. It's frustrating, as it excuses behavior by saying it's teasing/giving advice. I felt bad because it ruined those names for me and caused me to choose other names. I'm currently pregnant with my 3rd, and it's a boy. Once we announced the gender of our baby, my stepbrother kept pestering me about the name we chose, wanting to know what it was. I just kept ignoring him after he kept bringing this question up in every family function. Last week was the final straw. I was visiting my dad and stepmom, and my stepbrother asked me to tell him the name I chose for my son, but I refused. Then he tried to get the family to pressure and corner me into spitting it out, as he said. But I blew up at him saying I won't tell him because then he'll make me hate it so much that I'd change it. After he hassled me with his rude opinions and jokes and memes on the name. I told him my husband and I really like the name and won't risk giving him the chance to harass us into changing it. My stepbrother stared at me looking stunned. He then looked at his wife, then excused himself to the bathroom. He looked very upset. Everyone noticed and gave me some looks. My dad later pulled me aside saying what I said to my stepbrother and the way I spoke to him in front of everyone was unacceptable. He said he cared enough about me and my children to give me advice and share his opinions on my name choice, but I treated him with hostility and should prepare an apology for insulting him like that. Things have been tensed since then. Not stay home. Why does stepbrother get to treat you like crap, but you have to apologize for standing up for yourself? Your dad needs to step up and have your back. Also, it's just so weird that stepbrother is getting involved in this business. Is he competitive or jealous maybe? I would triple down to tearfully complain that he is harassing a pregnant woman. My family think that's how he is, and I shouldn't overreact to his comments. Is he competitive or jealous maybe? I'm not sure why it'd be, honestly. That's how he is. He is an a-hole. You treated him like an a-hole, and somehow everybody's shocked? Not stay home. My dad later pulled me aside saying what I said to my stepbrother and the way I spoke to him in front of everyone was unacceptable. What about everything he has said to you? And he insults his throne about your kids' names. I don't know what his issue is, but he has no right to be upset over being called out on the way he's acted. Yes, exactly what you said here. Honestly, I somehow find myself blamed no matter how I react, saying I'm overdramatic and oversensitive and take no constructive criticism. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my brother's wedding and recommending him to get a paternity test? My 22 female older brother, 26 male, was dating his fiancée for a total span of about 3 years before proposing. 2 years into dating, she cheated on my brother with another man. She told my brother about it. He was obviously broken because he thought that she was it for him, and they ended up breaking up. A year went by and my brother was a mess. He was depressed, lost a ton of weight, and my family and I barely saw him that year. He just wasn't the same. After a year passed, my brother progressively got back to his old self. My family and I were very proud and supportive of him. So last week, he contacted our whole family and asked if we can plan a family dinner, as he had an announcement. So we arranged the dinner this past Sunday. We all gathered at my parents' place. He walked in, accompanied by his ex-girlfriend, the one who cheated on him. Safe to say, we were all confused, but my mom allowed her to stay for dinner. He revealed to us that they had gotten back together a few months ago, and as of a few weeks ago, were engaged, and that she's also pregnant. The table was so silent you could hear a pin drop. She explained to myself and my family that she had made a mistake that she deeply regretted, and realized that my brother is the love of her life. I asked her if she thinks it's a little too late for that, after she cheated on my big brother and humiliated him to all his friends and family like that. My brother told me to calm down, and his fiancée told me that it's their business, and it's time for us to get over it and move on. I am very aware that my brother is a grown adult who makes his own decisions and isn't influenced by anyone. I also am aware that his relationship is his business, but he told my family and I that his fiancée cheated on him. So obviously we are going to have our own opinions about the situation and about her. He can't expect us not to. He told us that he would love if we would support them and attend their wedding in a few months, as they want to do it before the baby comes. I told my brother congratulations, but I will not be attending the wedding and that I think he should get a paternity test for the baby. His fiancée got extremely offended and started going off on me saying that I'm slut-shaming her and that she doesn't deserve this treatment. I told her if the shoe fits, ... She stormed out of my apartment and my brother followed after her. He has now been messaging me saying that I need to apologize to his fiancée and accept her into the family by attending the wedding. She's been sending me nasty texts telling me off. My father and grandparents both agree with me that my brother should get a paternity test, while my mom has always favored my brother and feels that we need to forgive his fiancée and move on. Am I the a-hole for not attending my brother's wedding and telling him to get a paternity test? Info, my brother's fiancée is a couple months pregnant. They claim they got back together a few months ago. That's why I suggested test to my brother. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. A paternity test is in order, and maybe also a brain check for your brother. If the baby is born while they are married, it's legally his. This conversation with your brother would be better had just the two of you in private, both trying to keep calm, had no name calling. Make sure he knows whether it's his or not. He will be legally and financially responsible. You can't force him to want to know for sure, but you can make sure he understands it's a lifelong commitment. Not the a-hole. Haha, amazing. Not the a-hole. But for real, your advice was quite sound. Maybe a little tasteless to say right in front of her, but if the baby is indeed your biological nephew, she should have no issues taking a test. In fact, she sounds like the kind of person that would gleefully gloat that she was right, and you guys were all being jerks. The fact she is sending you nasty texts for one somewhat tasteless comment makes me think that the baby might not be your brother's. You're right, the timing is suspicious. If she takes the paternity test and it is his, the right thing to do would be supportive and attend the wedding, and try and forget the past as best you can. But I have a feeling this won't be the case. Good luck to you and your brother, OP. She was giving my family and I so much attitude at the table when my brother was talking to us. So in the moment, I thought the comment was warranted. Oh, by all means, I think most people would have done the same. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not making my brother and his fiancée a wedding cake after they refused to pay me? I, 25 female, love to bake. It's a big passion of mine and something I love to do as a hobby in my free time. I have an Instagram account that I use to show off my work, which is mainly the cakes I bake and decorate. I make these cakes for family and friends for birthdays or special occasions like Christmas, Easter, etc. I never charge for these cakes, but I'm always compensated in some way by family and friends. They'll usually gift me money or a gift card to my favorite restaurants, or make me a dish in return as a thank you. Now, my younger brother, 23 male, and his fiancée, 23 female, were planning their wedding, and asked me a few months in advance if I'd be able to make their cake for them. This would be my biggest order yet, as they wanted a 3-layer cake as the wedding was for 75 people, and a flavor of strawberry shortcake as is their favorite. I was hesitant at first, but agreed to make the cake, under the condition that I was compensated for it. I explained to them that this was the biggest order I've ever had, and was going to take up a lot of my time, labor, and be costly. I gave them a very fair price for a cake of that caliber. They agreed. I also made it clear that I wanted to be paid before the wedding. I provided them multiple sketches of what the cake would look like, made a practice batch of the actual cake so that they could sample, and they loved the cake and approved of everything. Fast forward to last week, 6 days before the wedding. I contacted my brother for my payment as I was going to get started on buying the rest of the ingredients for the cake, minus the strawberries. I was going to do that closer to the date so they could be fresh. He assured me he'd drop off my check the next day. Next day came, brother went MIA and no check arrived, so I tried to contact him again. Next day came, no check again. I offered to drive to their house and pick up the check, but they made an excuse that it didn't work with their schedules. So, the day before the wedding, I contacted both my brother and his fiancée asking again. They blew up telling me that I'm a selfish witch for charging them, when I don't charge the rest of the family and that they refuse to pay, but demanded me to make the cake. I said no, and explained my terms again. They called me a selfish a-hole and said I better make the damn cake. I again said no, so the day of the wedding, I decided not to attend due to the amount of disrespect they showed me. Well, my brother, his fiancée, and her family are now blowing up my phone, sending me all kinds of nasty messages. My family are trying to stay out of it, but don't think I should have screwed them like that. Am I the a-hole for not making the cake after they refused to pay me? Edit. I was charging them $400. They knew exactly what they were doing. For anyone who is giving you a hard time about it, tell them you're certainly welcome to make a free wedding cake for them. Not the a-hole. Worst part is, it wasn't just for them. It was by no means a small wedding. It was for 75 people. That's a lot of cake. Not the a-hole. And for a 25-year-old woman, you have a remarkably good ability to set and enforce a boundary, and not be guilted into doing things. I think many people in your situation would have made a cake out of a sense of guilt, and then just be resentful afterwards for being out all the time with money. Then they'd be posting here wondering if they are the a-hole for being mad and asking for the money over and over after the fact. Your way or the other way people would be mad because they're entitled users. You shut it down on the front end. Well done. In fact, I would argue they still owe you about $50 for the time you spent making the sketches and the sample cakes. My money estimate is based on what you said about charging $400 for the full cake. Your brother and his now wife are entitled a-holes, but you're definitely not. You were upfront about the charges, and $400 for a 75-person wedding cake is pretty inexpensive. They agreed to this, and then tried to guilt you into doing it for free at the last minute. The fact that her family's piling on shows the familial level of entitlement going on there. This is the type of thing that would cause me to go either low contact or no contact. It doesn't sound like you'd be missing out on much. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being brutally honest with my friend before her wedding? My best friend for the last 10 years is getting married in a few weeks. This past weekend was her bachelorette party. She got quite wasted. But I don't drink a lot, so I played it safer and stayed pretty coherent. At one point, she was in the bathroom vomiting and crying, looking through pictures of her ex on Instagram. All the other girls were comforting her and talking about what a piece of trash he is, etc. The next maybe hour turned into fixation on her ex, how they should have been the ones married, etc. Her ex recently had a baby with his new wife, so I understand it may have opened old wounds, but they split up 5 years ago. I am also one of the few people who actually know why they split up. And all I can say is it was definitely her fault. After the hour, I tried to get us all out of the bathroom and continue the night. The next morning things seemed fine, but then my friend was going through her phone and saw she had called her ex 10 plus times. She freaked out, but the calls were also short and we assumed he didn't pick up. I told her she needed to delete his number from her phone and move on, because it wasn't fair to the guy she is marrying if she continues to be hung up on her ex. Everyone got really upset with me for being insensitive, and I was made to feel like it was my fault for letting her call him. Eventually, my friend asked me to go home early. I learned from one of the other bridesmaids that they spent the rest of the morning bashing me in addition to ex. I was told that part of a bachelorette party is getting closure with old relationships, and my judgmental attitude ruined it for the bride-to-be. I talked to my sister about it, and she said while my friend was being ridiculous, that it's my job to put aside my feelings for the bride as maid of honor. We are all in our 30s though, and this seems very odd to me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I just want to put this here as a lot of people keep asking I should tell her fiancé. In any normal situation I would agree, but in this case, she has been asked in the past to choose between him and her ex. She chose her ex, and made it clear to her now fiancé she would rather be with her ex. But her ex said he didn't want her and left, so she stayed with her now fiancé. So fiancé knows on some level and telling him wouldn't be a big revelation, and likely wouldn't make him end the wedding. It would just make him sad and rub his nose in something that he is aware of. The other bridesmaids are not my friends. I'm only friends with the bride. Also, people keep asking why I am her friend. One main reason, as sad as it is, that I didn't have a real friend until university. The town I grew up in was very small and conservative, and I'm a gay woman. When I came out in high school, I became a pariah. She was the first person who was ever kind to me, ever stood up for me, and was my first friend. So I think maybe I have been more willing to turn a blind eye to her poor choices than I should be. But I am reconsidering that now. I do have a much better and broader support circle now, but I do think I see her as that kind freshman and sort of my savior, which clouded my judgment in not being more upset with her toxic choices over the years. Now for the top comments. I was told part of a bachelorette party is getting closure with old relationships. No. Closure with old relationships should have happened way before accepting a marriage proposal. Not the a-hole at all. Your friend seems to still be carrying a torch for her ex while planning to marry someone else. Poor groom. Right? I didn't think of my ex once during my hens. Or like, ever. Because I don't care. What a weird outlook to have. I think of exes randomly in passing. Something will come up and spark a memory. But I don't have any of their phone numbers, don't check out any of their social media, and I'm certainly not dwelling on any of them. It sounds like Opie's friend screwed up with his ex and can't let go. Friend probably isn't ready to marry someone else. Not the a-hole. I'll never understand these friend groups that never tell each other the real truth. She doesn't sound like much of a friend, to be honest. Plus, I thought the point of a bachelorette party was one last night out as an unmarried woman, not spending the night wishing I was marrying my ex. The fact is, I feel bad for the groom, because he's obviously second choice and he'll probably get treated like crap. The worst part is, she usually does say things like how important honesty is, and that friends are supposed to look out for each other, so I'm just very confused. With people like that, they are, until the truth is told to them. She probably felt threatened by you that hold knowledge others don't. She's probably scared you'll blow up her wedding. Don't worry, she will blow up her own marriage. Clearly not the a-hole here. You did nothing wrong in telling your friend to respect their partner and delete their ex's number. The group sounds problematic, and I hope you don't hold yourself in bad esteem because of their behavior. Thank you. My only worry is a lot of people do tend to say the bride is always right, so I worried I messed up. But I'm glad some people see it the way I did. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's parents to stop telling people my name is Catherine and for embarrassing them in front of their friends? My name is Rin. Just Rin, not Catherine. But ever since my in-laws have met me, they have gotten the idea that my actual name is Catherine, and Rin is just a nickname. I have asked them not to introduce me or tell people it's my name, but they always go back to it. My husband and I took a small break from them when it continued, and they apologized and seemed to be doing better. Then for my mother-in-law's birthday, we were invited to celebrate with them, and a couple of her friends came up to me and asked if I was Catherine. They said mother-in-law talked all about me. I decided to get a little bit jokey instead of annoyed, and played upon it saying mother-in-law is so forgetful, and that I was so sorry she told them the wrong name. That I'll need to write my name on everything she owns so they don't forget. Her friends found it funny, but told her it was weird that she gave them the wrong name. She and father-in-law came up to me close to the end of the party, and I told them to stop telling people my name is Catherine, and they need to accept that my name isn't up to them. They claim I was rude and that it was awful for me to try and embarrass them in front of their friends by joking with mother-in-law's friends. My husband told them they should have listened, but they're saying I took it too far, and maybe I did. Am I the a-hole? How are they unaware that they're embarrassing both you and themselves in front of their friends? It's a basic of decent manners to get people's names right, to the best of one's abilities whenever possible. Not the a-hole, Rin. I like your sense of humor. You could always just add Kath to the front of their names. Hi everyone, I'd like you to meet my mother-in-law, Kath Margaret, and my father-in-law, Kath Robert. And this is their dog, Kath Fido. It is a catastrophe. What a couple of Kath holes. Not the a-hole. Can I introduce you to Brian, my mother-in-law, and Stephanie, my father-in-law? This made me chuckle a bit, because they hate the trend of boys' names on girls. So I could see some mouth foaming going on if anyone did this. Not the a-hole. This conversation should never have gone past. You. Hey, mother-in-law. I'm Rin. Nice to meet you. Mother-in-law. Oh, hi. I've never heard that name before. Is it short for Catherine? You. No, just Rin. Mother-in-law. All right, nice to meet you, Rin. Because that's how a normal introduction goes with literally every sane person on the planet. My cousin's name is Jill. Just Jill, not Jillian. She had a teacher who refused to believe that her parents would be so juvenile as to name her a nickname, and called her Jillian. When parent-teacher night rolled around, the teacher kept talking about Jillian this and Jillian that. Finally, her dad said, "Who is Jillian? Our daughter is Jill." The teacher tried to correct him. It took a copy of her birth certificate and an intervention with the principal to get the teacher to stop. Some people are their own worst enemies. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to visit my brother and his newborn because of what he did 2 years ago? I'm male 33, lost my wife 2 years ago. Right now, I'm a single dad of my 9-year-old son. My wife had cancer. It was too much for her to take, but she always said that our son was her strength. She was receiving treatment and spending time at home with our son, as she always said that she wanted to spend as much time at home with our son as possible. She just knew. I took care of our son's needs as well as household, and her family was very supportive. Her sister helped by driving her to the hospital, but my family didn't do much. My brother, age 37, kept coming over and making comments about how our home was a mess and unhealthy for our son. Claimed that he was being neglected and asked what would happen to him after my wife passed away. He bluntly said that it wasn't fair for our son to live like that and kept being negative and telling those things to my wife, making her feel bad and worried. I told him to stop coming over and just leave us alone. I was angry with him, so I went low contact. And 1 month before my wife passed away, I had a visit from the CPS. My wife was home when they came. They did an interview with me and my son, and I explained my wife's condition. They then talked to her sister and informed me that someone called them and filed a report about our situation and possible neglect in our house. Eventually, nothing came out of the report, but my wife never stopped crying, and she got very sick that night. And I'm sure she felt helpless, as if she was a bad mother. I assured her that she was in fact stronger than most people and that the report was nothing, so she shouldn't have been worried. But she couldn't help it. My dad called me a week after, telling me to be careful because my brother reported me to CPS and was bragging about it, hoping they take action. I was livid. I got into a huge argument with him, and all who defended him and I caught contact with him right then. After my wife's funeral, no one visited except for her sister. I talked to my family, but I haven't talked to my brother for 2 years after what he did and all the stress it caused my wife. Last week, my mom called me to tell me my brother and his wife had a baby boy and wanted me to bring my son and visit him. I refused. She called me unreasonable and told me to let my son meet his cousin and uncle, to just forgive and forget. She kept pressuring me despite saying I don't want to. My dad himself said it's time for us to reconcile and get together as a family. I ended up yelling at them that I won't forget the scene my brother made before my wife passed away, and claiming that we were bad parents knowing that we were struggling and doing all we can. They just kept insisting I visit and how it goes, but I still refused. My brother didn't apologize and only talked to my parents. This is his first baby with his wife, as they had issues with miscarriages in the past. Now for the top comments. Not day haul. I'd let them all know you'll go no contact with them too if they keep this up. Last I checked, the sister was the only one actually helping and the only one to come to your wife's funeral. They all suck. Not disagreeing in general, but I think you misread about the funeral. I'm fairly sure what it means to say is that only the wife's sister visited after the funeral, although I think the wording is a little unclear. Not day haul. He tried to have your son removed from you while your wife was dying, and bragged about it. He'd be dead to me. The class act would be to help clean up the house. This was despicable. Not day haul. Not day haul, not day haul, not day haul. 1. He called CPS on you for no reason. 2. He put unnecessary stress on your wife in her final days. Screw him. He would be dead to me. Agreed. He would be dead to me if he stressed out my cat in her final days, let alone wife. The forgiveness fetish needs to be addressed before it does any more harm. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to go to college even though my siblings need me? Hey, I'll get straight to it. I, female 17, am the oldest of 9. 15 male, 13 male, 13 female, 12 male, 10 female, 7 male, 5 female, 2 male. My mother is a single mother who works hard to supply for us, but relies mostly off child support, as most of my siblings and I have different fathers. Though I'm only a half-sister to most of my siblings, I still love them all very much and try my very best to treat them as equal. I got a job at 14 to help make extra cash, and my days normally consist of getting up early to help get all the kiddos to school, or getting online for virtual school, and then going to my classes off the day. I'm a junior in high school, before going to work right when school ends and getting home a little before midnight. During the day while I'm in class, I'm still watching my 2-year-old brother and making sure all the other kids are still in class, / paying attention. My mom works at a small restaurant nearby from around 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., but when she's home, mostly just sleeps because she's tired from her long shifts. Now, for the actual MIDA haul. Recently, I've been looking at and getting ready to apply to colleges, but haven't told my mother. She went through my laptop the other day and found out what I was looking up financial aid and looking at some state schools a bit farther away, 600 to 700 miles, and got really upset. She started crying, saying she couldn't afford me to send to school, and that she couldn't continue to care for my siblings without me. I felt really bad and apologized, and we just sort of dropped it. But I didn't plan on stopping the search. I mentioned the other day I was really interested in a nearby state school, one state over, that offered my major and was cheaper than in-state tuition at my state school. I was super excited and told my mom. She completely blew at me. She kept telling me how selfish I was to abandon our family and that if I left, I'd be setting my family up to fail. She started yelling and crying, and soon my siblings got upset and also started crying too. It was a mess that left me really conflicted. On one hand, I don't want to be selfish and prioritize my future over my siblings, but on the other hand, I'm just exhausted. I'm so tired and running on 4 hours of sleep, and then just spending all day either working, babysitting, or doing school. I understand that's how life is, and that it's just hard and I have to learn to deal. But at the same time, it all feels so frustrating. I see all these other kids my age going out and having fun and doing teen things, and it makes me sad that I have to miss that. But I know it's my responsibility to take care of my siblings. I'm at loss, and at this point, just need to know if I'd really be an a-hole if I decided to go to college. I'd still send money home as often as possible, and I'd get financial aid and take out a loan to spend as little money as possible. But I feel terrible for wanting to be selfish and leave my family. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole at all. Your siblings are not your responsibility, they are your mother's. She needs to stop relying on you. She works 8 hours a day, that's pretty normal. She shouldn't spend the rest of the time sleeping. She needs to be a parent. She chose to have all these kids and she needs to take care of them. Parentification is abuse. You have every right to live your own life. Go to college. You need to think of your own future and how you will support yourself. I came here to say this. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. is not a long shift. It's 7.5 hours after a lunch break. It's very unfair for a mom to put this burden on you. Look at it this way. If you get a degree, you'll have a more financially secure future and might be able to help out your siblings when they are ready for college, like with a place to stay, etc. I literally did 3 to 4 8-hour shifts with full-time school. The mom isn't even taking care of the kids when she's home. So why exactly is she tired? And if she does get tired easily, why exactly does she keep on popping kids out? Shouldn't have had kids after the 10-year-old. It sucks for mom, but it sounds like she's perpetually dumped after getting pregnant. I don't care how many dads there are. If she can't take care of her kids, she needs to stop having intercourse since she obviously doesn't care about using protection. 9 kids is pretty damn intentional. God, not an a-hole. Please go to college. That is going to get you a job and help you become independent, not your siblings. You are being parentified, which is a type of abuse. Your mom was the one who was so irresponsible for having 9 kids. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mom we haven't had a good relationship in a long time and wanted to go live with my dad? I, 16 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother. That has since crashed and burned since she dated and married my stepdad, Gary, 6 years ago. Gary treats his son, Ian, 19 male, like he's the center of the universe and expects my mother to as well. So she does. Anything Ian wants, Ian gets, and that usually comes at the expense of me. Ian wanted my room when they moved in. I was forced to go to another room to make the transition easier for everyone. Ian wanted a car for his 16th birthday. I didn't get braces for another year. Ian wanted to go on an expensive trip for spring break. I had to give up volleyball to make it happen. Ian wanted to have his side of the family over. I was expected to find somewhere else to be, since I wasn't family. My mother just went along with all of this and acted like it shouldn't affect me at all. My dad was overseas for a long time, and we used to FaceTime, and he was so upset by what he was hearing. He's home now, and is offering to have me come live with him. I'm not seeing a reason not to go, and so I told my mom I wanted to go live with my dad. She predictably freaked out and asked why I did want to do that, and said that we had such a good relationship, she didn't understand how this came so out of the blue. I told her that we haven't had a good relationship since she blindly decided to follow Gary's lead and give Ian anything he wanted, and it always came at my expense. My mom tried to argue, so I said I also wanted to leave because she let them kick me out of my own house because I wasn't family. So I was going to go live with someone who was. My mom started crying and said she wouldn't let me go. So I told her that my dad was willing to go to court over it, and I was old enough to be able to say where I wanted to be. She's been a crying mess since I told her, and Gary's being a jerk about how awful I'm being. Here's where I might be the a-hole. He was witching at me about how terribly I'm treating them and how I'm not thinking about them at all. I asked why should I? He never thought of me when he was taking things from me to give to his kid. I said, let's face facts here. You don't care about me. What you care about is losing the child support you spend on your son. He sort of went slack-jawed and I walked off. My dad said my mom called and threatened to take him to court, so he said he'd see her there. Now she's panicking because she realized he is planning on taking her to court over this. Mom and Gary of course think I'm the a-hole for making things hard for everyone, but my dad and grandparents say to leave and never look back. Am I the a-hole for wanting to get away from this situation? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he was worried about losing your child support. I hope your mother has a job because she is going to have to pay child support to your dad. Exactly. The expensive vacation, his car, and God knows what else for Ian was likely taken out of the child support for her. That's her money. Gary's big mad because his free money is being taken away. Opie, let them stay mad. Take care of yourself and let your dad take care of you too. Nothing that's happening is your fault. Be well and best of luck. Not a hole. Go to your dad's house. I'm so sorry this is going on. Not a hole. You have been punished for her inability to stand up to her husband for far too long. I hope that life with your dad is amazing and it treats you how you deserve to be treated. You should let him force her to stop treating you as family. You owe them nothing at all. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I resent them for pushing me to spend so much time with my sister? My parents have me, 17 female, and my sister, 14 female. Ever since we were little, my parents have wanted us to spend a lot of time together. And sometimes they have told me I couldn't do something because my little sister wouldn't be invited. Like my best friend's 7th birthday party wasn't 4-year-old friendly. And I was devastated because they went to this really cool water park that I had really wanted to go to. They backed off a little bit when I was like 13 to 15, and then once I started working, they pushed again. I went to school, worked a couple of hours after school and a couple of hours on weekends. Then, when I would have free time to unwind, they would come in and ask me to spend time with my sister. Or why don't I let my sister come and talk to me while I relax? Why don't I go see a movie with my sister? Why am I spending time talking to a friend and not my sister? It's not that we hate each other, but I don't want to spend that much free time with her. We're not super alike. Our interests are different. I still spend some time with her, but I'm closer to my friends because we are bonded over shared interests. I got very frustrated recently because my sister wanted to go to a certain store to get a dress and I was out with a friend. They called me and told me I needed to come home and spend time with her and take her to the store to get the dress. I told them I already had plans, and they told me, well, I have a new plan now and to tell my friend family time called. When I got home, I told them I am tired of them pushing us together so much, and that I resent them for pushing that time so much, and that I should be able to relax or have friends and not have to drop plans already made, just to bring her to get a dress. I told them I should be able to do things that she can't, and she should be able to do things that I can't. They told me they were just being normal parents, and that it's the life of a sibling, spending time with them and changing plans for them. I told them they were the reason I didn't get invites to certain parties as a kid, because they were the parents who brought a sibling with invitee, and not everyone likes that. This happened so many times it used to make me feel so bad. Even some actual friends didn't get to invite me because their parents didn't want my sister to come, and my parents wouldn't keep her home. They said that it was the problem of those adults. I told them I blamed them, and that they were wrong to do it, and that spending time with my sister didn't make up for the things I missed. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And this comment from them. They told me they were just being normal parents and that it's the life of a sibling, spending time with them and changing plans for them. BS. I've never had to cancel plans with friends to hang with my sisters. They didn't have to cancel plans to hang with me. And I've never had a friend cancel a plan with me to go see their sibling, unless it was some sort of emergency. Why can't your parents take her dress shopping? They're obsessed with making sure she has a relationship with you because you're family, but they won't go out with her and let you have your own life once in a while? I know. It would have made much more sense for them to take her shopping. but they said it was something sisterly. It's annoying, and clothes shopping is not my idea of fun. Not an a-hole. As a parent of a 13 and 15-year-old, it is not normal to expect them to spend that much time together. I did used to let them attend each other's parties, but to go to someone else's party, you need an invite. No invite? And that son is spending the time somewhere else. It is totally normal for both of you to have different friends and spend time apart. Exactly. But my parents considered an invite for me an invite for her, and vice versa. Not an a-hole at all. Your parents, well, there's no nice way to say this. Shouts from the rooftops, your parents are a-holes. That is not normal parenting. Normal parenting would be to recognize that your kids are separate people with their own friends and interests. It is not demanding that one kid essentially give up their life to hang out with the other one. Nope. Did they just not want to bother with two sets of activities? I can't find a reasonable explanation for why they'd want to do this, other than that they want you to look after your sister so they don't have to. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.
Am I the a-hole for kicking out a very vocal child-free flatmate after my wife got pregnant? Basically, my wife and I, 29 male/24 female, bought our own house a couple of years ago and got two flatmates in to help pay the mortgage. 2 bedrooms plus ensuite for us to use, and 1 bedroom each plus shared bathroom for the 2 flatmates. One flatmate, Alex, pretty much keeps to herself, while the other one, Caitlin, 32 female, is quite strongly opinionated and much more social. Caitlin is also child-free, and occasionally very vocal about it. It's not constant, but when something child-related comes up, she will interject without fail. Anyway, wife and I were finally successful in conceiving, and decided to tell both of our flatmates 3 months into the pregnancy. We chose 3 months as we didn't want to announce it to anyone too early in case of a miscarriage, but also wanted to give flatmates plenty of time to find somewhere else if they understandably didn't want to live with a newborn. In the end, both said they wanted to stay flatting with us as the location is good and the house is newly built, as most houses in my country are cold and damp, turn-of-the-century wooden cottages. Anyway, almost immediately after this, Caitlin begins making snide remarks about our soon-to-be child. Things like she should get a discount on rent for putting up with a baby, she's not going to get any sleep with the baby in the house, we should have told them we were trying, etc. At first, my wife just brushed these off, though I did have a word with Caitlin that they're not appreciated. Since then, the snide remarks became more frequent and rude, like calling us selfish for bringing a child into this world, saying our social lives are going to be over, etc. After a couple months of this, I decided that I didn't want to put up with this kind of negativity in what will be a very stressful but also special time of my life. So, I consulted with my wife, and with her support have decided to kick Caitlin out of our house. As a flatmate without a formal signed rental agreement, she actually has no tenancy rights in my country, though I still opted to give her a month to find a new place as a sign of good faith. Caitlin is throwing a hissy fit saying I'm being unfair, that since she pays rent, she should have a say in the direction of the household, and that we were selfish for having a kid without even telling flatmates. Alex is on the fence, though has expressed that I'm being a bit unfair to Caitlin. Wife, as I said, fully supports me, though she's less annoyed by her behavior than myself if I'm being honest. So yeah, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your peace of mind in your house comes first, and she sounds insufferable. Yeet her. I agree, not the a-hole. As long as no laws are being broken, renting a room in someone's house does not give you the right to dictate how they choose to live. Just because someone is anti-child, anti-vax, anti-pet, or anti-pasta, they don't have the right to expect others to live by their personal viewpoints. It's part of why I am against any laws being made that are based on the religious beliefs of any one set of people, especially if the law is expected to apply to everyone. I don't mean the rules that apply universally of don't steal, don't kill, don't maliciously lie, etc. I'm talking about the my religion says not to get tattoos. So even if your religion says you can, I am making a law that forces you to live by the rules of my religion, not yours. Kinda stuff. There are 2 types of child-free people. One just doesn't wish to have children, but they accept that children are a part of life and usually enjoy interacting with kids. The second type hates children, thinks they shouldn't exist, and makes everyone around them miserable. Your flatmate is the latter. If she stayed, she would get even more obnoxious after the baby arrives. I mean, how dare she say you should consult her about your family planning? Kick her out in good conscience, not the a-hole. This is more than that. This woman is a moron. It's one thing to hate being around kids, but you don't slag off the landlord's unborn child if you intend to live there, and act like you should somehow be consulted about their family planning. Totally not the a-hole. Since she pays rent, she should have a say in the direction of the household would apply if you were all renting the place together and were on equal footing, not in a situation where you owned a house and you happen to have 2 spare bedrooms that you're renting out. Also, she was informed in plenty of time, chose to stay anyway, and is now being a prick about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for fighting for full custody of my kids against their mom? I, 28 male, I'm divorced. My ex-wife, 27 female, who we'll call Brittany, and I decided to do a shared parenting. My current wife and I get them throughout the school year, while she gets every other weekend, and then she gets them majority of the summer while I get them every other weekend. So for the majority of the year, they're living with my wife and I. My kids spent their first summer there and absolutely hated it. They have been begging me to fix it so that they don't have to live with her and her boyfriend during the summer. Her boyfriend, we'll call Steve, 24 male, does not get along well with the kids. The kids have accused him of abuse and neglect on multiple occasions to multiple different people. This is mostly why I got majority of their custody. There have been multiple allegations, including from other family members witnessing this behavior, CPS investigations, etc. Whenever I would bring up a concern with Brittany, she would either not respond or deflect. Even her family thinks she was grasping for straws to make me look bad. The straw that broke the camel's back for me was the day my 6-year-old son called everyone on his tablet begging for food. He got a hold of my mom and said Steve was sleeping, their mom was at work, and that they weren't allowed to leave their room or they'd get in trouble. My mom got hold of my wife, who then called me while I was at work crying, saying the kids were hungry and calling and asking for food. I immediately got a hold of Brittany and demanded an explanation for the situation. She acted like she had no idea what I was talking about and said our son is going through a growth spurt and is just eating a lot more than usual. When my son was home with me again, I asked him about it, and he said that's just how things go at his mom's. He explained that they don't really eat until their mom gets home from work, which is in the evening, and that's another reason they don't want to live there. I filed for emergency custody and full custody. Emergency custody was granted quickly, as Brittany and Steve were technically homeless over the summer and made the kids go through that with them. And yes, I asked her to let me keep the kids until she had her own residence, and she refused. With emergency custody in place, this means the kids do not go to her until we go back to court, but she has visitation. And now she's very angry with me. She spews nasty comments to me here and there. And her last one, she even asked, "Why would you do this to the kids? If you had any concerns, you could have just talked to me." This whole ordeal is largely due to the fact the kids hated there. They've made the same complaints, and we have had the same concerns. And Brittany and Steve have done nothing to make their home better for them after many chances. This just makes me think it will not get better. I just want my kids to be happy and safe. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and the courts seem to agree. She just doesn't seem to like that things aren't going her way. As for, you could have just talked to me, Opie did, and she excused away starving her own son. She didn't want her like Opie getting a truer second opinion, because the truth was she was being a very neglectful parent. Even her own family doesn't have faith in her ability to be a good parent. Not the a-hole, but why are you posting on AITA? The purpose of the custody hearing is to determine what's in the kid's best interest. If you get sole custody, it's because the court could substantiate the claims of abuse/neglect and deem the house unsafe for your kids. I've been feeling conflicted since the kids missed their mom over the holidays. She hasn't scheduled any visitation and the kids miss her. Bro, 1,000,000 times not the a-hole. Your kids are your number one priority in this. Their experience with a boyfriend is evidence that your kids have unfortunately been exposed to a dangerous environment. Things can only go downhill with that kind of people. I would have fought for full custody from the very beginning, but fortunately it seems nothing big has happened and now it's time to keep your children safe from them, especially this Steve. The The courts basically told me since my kids are so young, they don't want to take them away from their mom and have them miss out on time with their mom. It was a lot of fighting back and forth, and a shared parenting plan was what they ultimately came up with. I didn't like the idea either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my mom's allowance to pay for daycare when she couldn't babysit for me? Last year, my husband, 35 male, and I, 34 female, had our first and last child. We were fortunate enough to be able to stay at home with him for almost a year by staggering our parental leave and vacations. But now that time has run out and we must return to work. I asked my mother, 56 female, if she would be available to watch him during the week, and she said no. Fair enough. That's her prerogative. My husband and I researched daycares in the areas where we work and settled on one that came highly recommended. It was expensive though, and that meant cutting down on expenses, like the monthly allowance that we'd been giving my mother. A bit of background to this. My parents were married for 28 years before my father decided that he wanted someone younger and sexier than my mother. For all of those 28 years, my mother had been a stay-at-home mom, then a stay-at-home wife. With my father leaving, she was now meant to survive somehow in a world where she had never really worked. Because when they got married, my father didn't want her to, and because she was raised in a traditional religious family, she did what the head of household wanted. I'm not even going to go into that man's hypocrisy. Either way, he's gone, and even though she got some alimony, she didn't press for as much as she should have. Again, that religious conditioning, and she's struggling. My husband and I have been supplementing my mother's income to a hefty amount every month, which was not an issue, until we had to put baby into daycare and found out just how expensive that was in a very high cost of living area. In light of that, we told her that we would need to cut our allowance in half. We were not planning to start immediately, but would take the financial hit for 3 months to give her time to adjust and move things around. She got upset and told us that we were punishing her for saying no. I told her that was not the case, but it is hard to maintain 2 households virtually by ourselves if we had to pay an exorbitant amount of our salaries to daycare every month for the foreseeable future. She was still angry and asked us to leave. Later, my sister called us upset that we were abandoning mom and making her struggle just because she wouldn't do our bidding. So, I suggested to her that she increase how much she was helping, considering she still lives at home. She called me a freaking witch and hung up on me. So Reddit, am I really the a-hole here? Edited to add, I wanted to answer some recurring questions here. My sister's ability to help is limited and sporadic because she struggles with mental illness. It got much worse in recent years and we're working to get her on disability, but that is a process. I guess that's why I feel bad about a comment I made to my sister because it was a moment of lashing out, when I know that she's in a tough spot through no fault of her own. As for my mom, I will work with her to make sure that she can go back to work, especially given my sister's challenges. My mother's neither lazy nor a leech. Unfortunately, she's been bitten down by being raised in a traditional culture and having it drilled into her what the duty of a wife is. She was then betrayed by everyone when her husband left. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're not punishing her for saying no. You are being exceedingly generous to give your mother an allowance in the first place, but it is not your responsibility. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And you're still being exceedingly generous to give her half. And if your sister isn't paying at least half of your mom's household expenses, mortgage, food, utilities, etc., then she's got nothing to say in the matter. Which would explain why sister was calling with the insults, since she was being subsidized too. It's possible mom asked sister to pay more. Not the a-hole. You have a small family to take care of. Your mom, at 56, still has plenty of time in which to work. While she might not get a high-paying job, she could still get something unskilled if she chose. Many employers take into account things like, I spent my life raising my kids. That said, knowing nothing else about your sister's situation, it's hard to make a call on her behavior. Many employers take into account things like, I spent my life raising my kids. Yep, I notarized an interview for someone whose kids had flown the nest once. The interviewer all but reworded each question to help the applicant apply them to what they may have had to do around a home, organize for special occasions, etc. Some people honestly don't realize what skills they have. Last story. Am I the a-hole for crying over my dad accidentally calling my daughter his and his wife's child? I, 20, have an 8-month-old daughter. It's just me and her because her dad didn't want anything to do with her. Fine by me, and currently I have zero interest in dating. My dad wasn't exactly an active participant in my upbringing. He met my stepmother when I was 10 and they've since had my 2 brothers, one being only 2 months older than my daughter. I moved in with him because my mother couldn't handle a baby in the house. I'm currently doing my L3 apprenticeship in childcare. I work 35-hour weeks. Not long, but one of the settings is an hour walk plus nearly hour bus ride. So total nearly 2 hours, the other is an hour bus. I'm out usually 6:30 a.m. till 7 p.m. I pay rent, cook for everyone, and do chores. I pay my stepmother to babysit for me as she is a stay-at-home mom. However, in 2 months, my daughter will be able to start the nursery I work in. I know my stepmother has always wanted a daughter. Sometimes I do get jealous or upset how close she is to my daughter. As in, sometimes she won't let me hold her / feed her or walk her. She does apologize afterwards. Says she gets anxious because how young I am. But I'm hoping if I suck it up, I'll be able to afford my own place in a year. My stepmother's sister visited and I overheard my dad refer to my daughter and his son as his and my stepmother's little babies. I waited till step-aunt left and reminded him that he didn't even want to be called granddad. He's not my baby's dad, nor she's the mother. He said, sorry, with how often we look after them, sometimes it does feel like she's our daughter. He's been encouraging me to go to university. I didn't get my math. Doubt I'll get my functional math, so university's out of the question. But he mentioned how he'd be continuing to look after her if I go to university. I said I wouldn't even bother trying to go to uni if he was going to cross a boundary. I did cry. My stepmother said I was overreacting and that I should be happy how close everyone is / how much they do for me. And sometimes people do form unconscious bonds and thoughts, and since they apologized, I shouldn't have manipulated them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As in, sometimes she won't let me hold her / feed her or walk her. WTF? She's really crossing the line and must respect some clear boundaries I don't even have to mention. The problem here isn't they sometimes feel like their grandkids are their own children, but actually trying to undermine your role as a parent. Exactly, not the a-hole, but I would seriously start stashing any money you can and get out ASAP. This is not a healthy situation for anyone, but especially you. You're working so hard to provide for your child and they are undermining you. I cut my mother out of my life when she tried that with my baby. You're the parent OP, not them. Babysitting a child doesn't make them the parents. Had a family friend who kicked her own mom out of her house and did single parenting alone because didn't like that grandma thought she should become the second parent after dad passed in a tragic accident. Then was bringing the kid over to a sister / brother-in-law's house after dude had been accused of some scary stuff. Your stepmom is a babysitter who's acting in highly inappropriate ways with your daughter. Withholding your child from you is especially scary, and your dad referring to your daughter as your stepmom's is also a cause for concern. I would be worried that they might try to use the police / legal system to take your daughter away from you, especially since your stepmom is already espousing concerns about you caring for your own daughter, and implying that you're incapable or incompetent. Given all this together, I'd be seriously concerned about their motives. Not the a-hole.